Hey guys, in this short devotional, we're going to touch on a few things about selfish desires and also our motivations towards God when we're asking Him for things. But before we get into that, if you love the content here, would you mind subscribing? Of course, you know the bit already. We're trying to bring you this quality content every day, and if you like the content here, if you want more of this, it'd be incredibly helpful for you to subscribe so we can grow our audience and grow our channel here. But today's verse is going to be from James 4:1-3, and I'll read it right now. What causes you to fight and quarrel among you? Do they come from your desires that battle within you? You desire, but you do not have, so you kill. You covet, but you cannot get what you want, so you quarrel and fight. You do not have because you do not ask God. But when you ask God, you do not receive, because when you ask with the wrong motives, that you may spend what you get on your pleasures. So guys, this is one of my favorite, James is one of my favorite books in the Bible, and I think chapter 4 is probably one of my favorite chapters. But, James is right here, he's obviously writing to a church, and we, just like us in our day-to-day lives, we can become incredibly wound up in our own desires, and not even that those start off as bad, not even desiring something is bad, but when we let that turn into, like it says here, this maybe an extreme hopefully, but you do not desire, so you kill. When our selfish ambitions can get in the way of us with God and us with the Christian community and with everybody in general, it becomes incredibly hard for us to even reflect upon our own selves and see that I'm not going down the right path. I need to switch my lane here. But I think this is an incredibly important reminder to understand that we will turn to our selfish desires. Our selfish nature, or the nature of us is broken and selfish, and if we can remember that, it can help us when we see those traits in us, and we can understand that, I need to focus back on my relationship and my desires for God and not for the earthly materials, which in the end don't matter as much as our relationship with God. And kind of moving on, he talks about really, that our motives when we talk to God can be off. And I think I found that true in my life. We need to examine our hearts, and we need to see, are we doing this for God's glory, for His eternal power and His glory and His wisdom? But are we doing it for ourselves? And we don't want to do that for ourselves, because in our lives, we want to glorify God. That's the end goal. That's the end game. We want God to be glorified through us and not have God glorify us. That's just something that can get in our heads, and that's something that gets in my head, that when I think I'm all this and special, I'm like, God, give me these blessings, give me these joys, and James isn't saying that it's bad to ask for those, and he talks about when you do ask, you do not receive because you're in the wrong motives. And I think that is actually something that is incredibly important, and that isn't highlighted too often, that our motives are incredibly important when we're talking to God and when we're living our life in general for God. If we have a motive of wanting to bring God glory and wanting to bring Him success and growth in His kingdom, we will, I think in my life, I've been more fulfilled when I've lived that role and that idea in my life. But when I've turned away from that and I focused on myself and what I want and what the desires I think I should have, I end up becoming miserable, and I almost can't live with myself, and eventually I turn back to God, and I understand that I definitely need God, and I definitely need to and being so grateful for Him, I think that's partly why I want to share His word, and I think for everybody, if we focus up and we understand of the motive that we need to have, and not focusing on ourselves and our selfish nature and desires, which can easily get in the way, it's really easy. It's incredibly easy for those to get in the way, and I think that something that also needs to be addressed, because we in life sometimes don't understand that, and we don't even realize that, and that's the sad thing, is that you or your other brothers and sisters in Christ can have that selfish desire in them in nature, and they can become overwhelming and overbearing. With this example of so much so to kill, or so much of a desire that you quarrel and fight with your covetousness, and I think that's something that he highlights here for a reason. It's a danger that we need to watch out for. We need to pray about. We need to go to the Lord in prayer when we see ourselves turning to that. So really, let's ask ourselves today, am I talking with God and am I communing with Him in prayer for my own gain and my own glory? Or is it for God? Because sometimes it's easy to get that twisted up, and really we need to make that clear in our own lives. What is my motive? What is my reason for what's my reason for living? What is the reason I do what I do? And I think if we center that on God, we'll be incredibly content and incredibly stable. I thank you guys.